The college football experience, South Carolina Gamecocks 2024 season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times the amount of money you enter with their brand new Pick 8. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. And yes, they do have college football. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMMM. Once again, 2 M's. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, folks, this is Bud Foster. You're listening to SGPN. Let's let it ride.
Football experience, South Carolina Gamecock edition 2024 season preview episode. Hopefully you're checking out all of our previews as we're going through all of college football. All 134 teams will have a solo preview. We're going through the SEC first, switching it up from years past. We've been doing this 7-8 years now, where now we're starting with the SEC, going to the Mountain West next, followed by the Big Ten. And so on and so on and so on. But it's a big year. I think it's the most interesting year in college football for many reasons. I think the 12-team playoff is just going to be just like, it's like steroids. It's like Marion Barry at a hotel. You know what I mean? Like the college football game is just going to be a hell of a good party this year. And,
just on a whole different level. Yeah, you get that crack in there. You know, that's what we have.
Don't forget the prostitutes.
That's right. But college football playoff and NIL is the equivalent of crack and prostitutes.
Yes, I'm telling you, man, it's the most exciting. Just forecasting, doing these team previews as compared to 6-7 years ago when we've been doing it for a while. It's just more exciting, and it starts here with the Gamecocks. Once again, hopefully you're watching youtube.com/the college experience. You could, obviously watch this on YouTube, but also if you're listening on the audio side, that's fine too, wherever podcasts can be found. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, that's fair. My name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, AKA Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
That's what I feel like that's what Will Muschamp's saying. All right? They fired him. They brought in Shane Beamer. Shout out to the chat. Dustin Weezer says, it's been a minute. Haven't been in here. I'm sorry. But I heard you guys were talking Cox. Couldn't miss it. He's killing it there. And remember last year they won the Cock Fest against Jacksonville State Gamecocks. The Cock Fest. Yeah. Beamer 1-0 in Cock Fest.
Coming out with the big cock is always a win. You know,
coming out with the bigger of cocks.
never want to lose at Cock Fest. That's for sure.
I am joined by this guy. He's lost many of Cockfest. Give it up for former JMU Duke defensive back, the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi-oh.
Let's get it going. Let's get that Tecmo Bowl music going, because the Gamecocks, it would be an understatement to say it's a pivotal year in the Beamer tenure in Columbia, South Carolina. Shout out to Damani in the chat. Appreciate you, Damani. Here we are, buddy. You know, we grew up in the heyday of Virginia Tech football, within 3 hours of Hokie football, and Frank Beamer, legend, and obviously you heard Bud Foster on the intro, legend.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's tough. You're seeing Skip Holtz do it right now in the UFL. Check out the UFL gambling podcast. But you know, it's tough to live up to the. You saw Dodge Shula's son, Mike Shula. Ask Alabama fans about Mike Shula. All right, it's a good way to get into a bar fight. All right, you know, it's just tough, man. It's tough to follow a fucking legend. My son, White Tiger. He's gonna have to follow me.
Got big old shoes to fill.
No, but honestly, man, what do you make of the? So let's just jump right into this because, and I have some slides that I concocted. If we're gonna talk Cox, that I've concocted all of these. But
we're working as many Cox into this episode as possible.
Yes. What do you make? 20-18 in 3 years is Shane Beamer. 20-18 at South Carolina, Patty C. And
I mean, that all depends on who we're comparing him to, you know, all time, because I don't think that that's that bad from an all time standpoint, but compared to some of his most recent predecessors, that's not spectacular. You know, that said, it's not that far from what Steve Spurrier did in his first 3 years. It took Spurrier a while to get it going. I mean, he'd only won 21 games in his first. Yeah,
but Muschamp had 22, and he didn't have a losing season. Spurrier did not have a losing season either in year 3. Year 3 was a losing season for Shane Beamer, where it's supposed to be encouraging. I feel like year 3 for Lou Holtz, they won 9 games.
I feel like most of those guys generally. I mean, I guess Muschamp took a step back. I mean, actually, Spurrier did from year. So they all kind of follow the same path. Where they have an average year 1, a good year 2, kind of mediocre, or maybe like their worst year in year 3, one of their worst years. Actually, Muschamp kept getting worse, so that's not a good sign. But maybe Beamer, I trust that Beamer is going to continue to improve, but things are changing now. You know, it's getting a little harder for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, there's no more SEC East. There's obviously no more divisions, and obviously Texas and Oklahoma join. Now, if I'm playing devil's advocate here, I say, man, they only lost by 10 at Georgia last year. They only lost by 2 to Florida. I mean, Florida was by definition a losing team last year.
But still a decent losing team. They went toe to toe with Florida State for most of that game.
Florida State
kept it.
Florida did.
Well, yeah. I feel like Florida kept it within pretty close until halftime against Georgia. I don't know if that was 2 years ago or last year, but either way, they only ended up losing by 3 touchdowns. Pretty bad, but I thought Florida was better than the 5-7 record. You know, at least
I did not.
Okay, they can bang with big boys better than, you know, a lot of teams that also had a 5-7 record. I'll say that much. Like, their talent at Florida is still something that you have to respect a little bit.
Well, if you're looking at this, you say, okay, we lost 7 games a season ago, and you got worked by North Carolina. That's not a game you want to lose these days, I feel like. But to be fair, Carolina was an 8-5 team. I mean, you lost a bunch of teams with a winning record minus Florida. You lost to Missouri. You never beat Missouri, though. And you lost to Texas A&M and Clemson. So
Tennessee, but how many of those games were on the road? You had freaking North Carolina in North Carolina, even though it was a neutral site game. You were on the road at Georgia, on the road at Tennessee, on the road at Missouri, on the road at A&M. Those are freaking hard places to go and get wins.
Yeah,
you almost have to appreciate the fact that those were what they were up against.
Yeah. So wait, how would you grade his tenure right now? Because the seat has got to be just on fire right now, right?
I would imagine so. I think South Carolina is justified in having bowl seasons every year, expectations at the very least. Probably 7 wins every year is a reasonable expectation, and the occasional 8, 9, and maybe even if you're going to keep your job for 6 years, you should probably have a 10-win season in there at some point.
Well, and I guess another thing is you look at the SEC record. So historically, he kind of has a little Stoops to him, even though he kind of has Stoops' number. He's 2-1 against Kentucky. he's kind of struggled against everybody in the SEC. To me, they normally just grab their wins against the non-con, beat Vanderbilt, and try to knock off a Missouri or a Kentucky or a Mississippi State or something. But so he's 1-2 against Clemson, 0-3 against Georgia, 1-2 against Tennessee, and that was the first year he got him before Heupel came, I believe. 1-2 against Florida, 1-2 against A&M, 3-0 against Vandy, 2-1 against Kentucky. I think the best thing he can tout is his record against Kentucky.
Yeah.
0-3 against Missouri. For some reason, South Carolina can never beat Missouri. 0-1 against Arkansas and 1-0 against Mississippi State.
Yeah, how did he do 3 years ago against Clemson? I got to double check that because we know they came back and squeaked out a close one 2 years ago.
You're talking about year one. That
year
would be?
One, yeah, he got trounced 30-0. So at least he's made that series a little bit more competitive. Last year, only losing by 9. Not quite the flex I'm sure South Carolina fans are hoping for, but at least they're not getting housed. I think he's fielding some pretty talented teams, but I think that's kind of what he inherited. I feel like South Carolina has been in the 25 to 30 range recruiting wise for a long time, which is near the bottom of the SEC, but nationally still obviously pretty high.
See, when he landed Spencer Rattler in the portal, I thought, man, could we really be looking at a real, contender in the SEC? Obviously Georgia was there, but I just thought, hey, maybe they'll be better than it was a weird hire from the start, but I don't know. I tend to think like, what if he goes 7-5, he's retained? You think what's that threshold to you?
I think 7-5 keeps him around another year. I think 6-6 maybe he's gone. 8-4, obviously they're keeping him. 7-5 is where it's a little bit of a question mark whether the fans have higher expectations of their team. But I think a lot of that depends on if they're passing the eye test and if they're bringing in guys that show promise. He's got to get some flashy guys, which he's been able to do, like you said, with Rattler. That inspired a lot of hope. It didn't really pan out. It did kind of the first year, but last year was a dud.
Yeah, it was a dud. Let's talk about last year because offensively, they were not very good. 75th in scoring offense per game, 26 points per game. That was 12th best in the SEC. 81st in yards. That charted for 9th best in the SEC at 363.1 yards per game. 23rd in passing. Spencer Rattler, 278 yards per game. That was 4th best in the SEC, but dead last in running the ball. Dead last in the SEC in running the ball, and one of the bottom 7 teams in the country. They were 126th. There was 133 teams last year. 85.1 yards per game. And that's the thing. And it's not only the ground attack. The offensive, my memory of last season, South Carolina Gamecocks. Now I threw on a couple games to refresh my memory this week, but their offensive line was horrible. That was the clear weak point of this team to me. Yeah. If they don't have, you lose Spencer Rattler, he's in the NFL, and that's another thing, man. If we bring up, how South Carolina did as far as NFL draft picks, Xavier Legette, they lost a first round player there. They lost Spencer Rattler in the 5th. They lost Marcellus Dial in, I believe, the 6th. And then they had, I believe, one other player drafted. I'm drawing a blank, but
let me scroll.
Yeah, I thought they lost one other player, but
Xavier Legette, Spencer Rattler, Marcellus Dial, and Nick Garguglio. He was the center in the 7th round at Denver.
Yeah, so they got 4 guys drafted. You lose your best offensive lineman. Okay, it just seems like that it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to replace a couple of those guys. Xavier Legette was a stud wideout for them, and we'll see that because they lost some other key guys in the portal. But look, let's talk about that. They have 4 returning starters, all of them on the offensive line. Look, there's 2 ways to look at this. You could say we were young, we're going to be better this year.
Yeah.
We were bad last year. Why do we still have these guys? You could say that too. Of like, we had the portal open. What are we doing here? But they got 4 starters back on the entire offensive side of the ball, and all of them are on the also offensive line. So it'd be like,
I
at
would
least
say, generally speaking, continuity in the offensive line is what you're looking for.
if they're good, but when you're 127th in rushing attack.
Yeah, I mean, look, having them as returning starters doesn't mean that they're going to start again this year. Hopefully you do also go back and get new offensive linemen that could challenge them or, replace them entirely. But having them back, having the dudes that were your starters last year back at your disposal, that's a good thing.
Yeah, fair. Experience does matter. Continuity does matter.
Chemistry matters, all that.
So what'd they lose in the portal? Quarterback Tanner Bailey hit the portal. Quarterback Colton Gaither went to Gardner Webb. They will beat James Madison this year. Running back Mario Anderson to the Memphis Tigers. Wide receiver Kelton Anderson, he's in the portal. Wide receiver Xavier Short heading over to App State.
James Madison will beat them this year.
Wide receiver Omega Blake going to the East Carolina Pirates. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot it was a South Carolina podcast. Landon Sampson, another wideout in the portal. And then Antoine Wells leaving for Ole Miss.
I feel like he was a little bit up and down. I don't know if last year or if it was the year before where he had decent production, but I think it was last year that he spent the entire time injured and just didn't crank out the production that they were hoping for him. Disappointing that he didn't do that, but not that big of a loss at the end of the day, even though he is super talented.
But didn't the year before he had like 1,300 yards, I feel like?
Let me see. For what? I don't know if it was for JMU or for.
I think he's been at Carolina 2 years, right?
2 years, I believe. He had 928 yards 2 years ago. 68 catches for 928 yards. So that's big. But last year he was
injured, right?
Yeah. He was only, if I can freaking do this, 3 catches for 37 yards.
Because he got injured. Look,
only played in 3 games.
Well, if Lane Kiffin,
it's not that big of a loss.
Well, it is because you're playing him.
Yeah, that's true.
When Ole Miss goes and gets you, it's like that's a guy that really could have helped the offense. Wide receiver Kylik Horton also hit the portal. Tight end Cameron Sandlin. Offensive tackle Jandarius Morgan heading out to Trent Dilfer and UAB. Offensive tackle Grayson Maines to the Temple Owls. Offensive tackle Jalen Nichols to Memphis, and Sidney Fugar to the Baylor Bears.
Not exactly getting picked apart by big time schools there, so that's
just Ole Miss, and I guess Baylor would be the only one you could say. But so I don't know. Let's take a look at what they got though. They went out in the portal. They brought in Davis Beville from Oklahoma spot, as well as Robbie Ashford from Auburn. Ashford got some starts at Auburn. Never looked great to me, but
career
he's experienced.
9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That ain't cutting it.
They bring in this kid from South Carolina State, the Bulldogs, Jarwan Howe. I know they're excited about him. Oscar Attaway put up some good numbers at North Texas, comes in, and then the big one, Rocket Sanders at Arkansas. Hopefully he's healthy, and he was dinged up a year ago, but Rocket Sanders, difference maker when he's healthy.
Yeah, that's an understatement. For a dude of his size, which I believe he's in the 6'3", 220 range, for him to be nickname Rocket, I mean, and living up to it. Yeah, that's an NFL back right there. They got if he's healthy. Had the knee injury at the beginning of last year, missed 6 games, and then toward the labrum, I think in the second to last or maybe the last game of the season. So I don't know if he had to get surgery, but assuming in the offseason he's got himself up to 100%, South Carolina's at least got a good running back.
Yeah. And then the wideouts, they went and got Van Ravius. Did I pronounce that correctly? Jacobs from Florida State, a wideout there. Davion Campbell from Nevada. Amari Huggins Bruce from Louisville with Jeff Brom. It's nice.
Yeah, he's consistent. 29, 31, 20 catches over the last 3 years, so 80 career catches. Decent, but not excellent production.
Gage Larvadine from the MAC champion Miami, Ohio Redhawks comes in. Jared Brown from Coastal Carolina. Obviously, we watch a ton of Coastal Carolina. Well, we watch a ton of college football in general, but Jared Brown's been a stud there. The question is, we saw Zachary Franklin leave UTSA and go to Ole Miss. Didn't really produce like we thought he would. And that's going to be, I think, a huge X factor for this year. Will Jared Brown, will some of these small school kids pay off? Oscar Attaway, Campbell, the wideout from Nevada, that's what we're going to see is will it pay off at this level?
Do you think, I guess they had Chadwell his junior year or his sophomore year, or I guess it was his freshman year for Jared Brown. And when he produced 789 yards on 49 catches, then last year they go to Beck, 740 yards on 58 catches, getting, more receptions, maybe not quite as a big play thing, but both of those teams I feel like are a little bit pass happy, which I don't think South Carolina necessarily is. So I don't know that you can anticipate that a guy who goes from a pass happy G5 is going to produce the same numbers at a kind of balanced Power 4.
Yeah.
But still,
he was good. He was good at Coastal Carolina, man. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Tight end Brady Hunt comes in from Ball State. And then they got a couple guys on the offensive line. Going to the FCS ranks, grabbing in Terselli Simpkins from North Carolina Central. And also offensive lineman Kamar Ball from FAU, as well as Aaron Parks from Oklahoma. I mean, I think they're better on the offense in a way, but when you lose Spencer Rattler,
yeah, it's tough to get better. I mean,
and your wideouts, two big wideouts.
Now, this quarterback, what was his name again? Lenoris Sellers.
Yeah.
Should we get to him?
Well, I mean, do we think he's starting? The redshirt freshman Lenoris Sellers. I know he got an award for a spring game, which is fucking hilarious.
Playing the first half of a spring game.
Yes. I mean,
player of the spring, though. Offensive player of the spring.
When's the last time you had a freshman or a redshirt freshman just dominate besides Caleb Williams at Oklahoma, right?
Well, I'll tell you, there was one guy who played for another Beamer who did pretty well as a redshirt freshman.
Okay. You want to bring it back 25 years. Okay.
And I don't think he was a 3-star, but Lenoris Sellers is. However, he was 9 of 11 in the spring game. He did have some rushing yards, and without having really watched any tape on him, but seeing pictures of him, he passes the eye test from a picture standpoint. 6'3", 217, but he looks like Sean Taylor.
You cannot tell me they will be as good at the quarterback spot as a year ago.
No. I mean, Spencer Rattler was a Heisman favorite 3 years ago.
Yeah. So I am a skeptic of the offense. No, I mean, they're better. They're certainly more talented at running back than they were a year ago. And I would like to think the offensive line has to be better by default. But yeah, I have my doubts on them. I don't know. What do you make of the offense? You think it's gonna be better this year than last year?
Well, again, like Beamer, let's see how much he's thrown the ball. 399 attempts with Rattler. That seems pretty high, and lo and behold, he had exactly 399 passes 2 years ago. So pretty dang consistent. 3 years ago, were they pass happy? No, with Luke Doty. Well, I guess they had a quarterback by committee between Doty, Brown, and Nolan 3 years ago. So I don't know. They seem like a balanced offense. And I think if Rocket Sanders is able to tote the rock, then maybe they don't need to have such a talented quarterback, and they could still be a better overall offense. But that all depends on Rocket Sanders. And to answer your question, no, it doesn't look like they're going to be better.
Yeah, I look. I hope I'm wrong, but it just seems like it could be rough seas. Look, folks. Before we talk defense, I want to tell you that you're listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Join Noah Beanick and the College Baseball Experience every single night. They're live streaming on YouTube and available for download on all podcast platforms for daily coverage and picks for the greatest show on dirt, aka the College Baseball World Series, all the way to the end of June. Check out the College Baseball Experience, youtube.com/the College Experience. Also, check out Circa. Yes, the Circa announced they're giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes for Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Circa in Las Vegas. If you haven't been, you got to go. But sign up in Vegas and play from anywhere with footballcontestproxy.com, promo code SGP to get 50%, or I'm sorry, get $50 off. That's footballcontestproxy.com, promo code SGP. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8 is now live for the NBA Finals. I know we only got one game left, potentially, maybe more. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks to make and extra ways to win, the excitement is higher than ever. And the best part, you can win up to 325 times the amount of money you enter originally. And you can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. Check it out. Use the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick. That's and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. They also, of course, have college football, so you'll love that. All right. Now let's talk. What's that?
Lenora Sellers just found out was originally a UVA commit, got flipped by Beamer. So Beamer's still doing Tech favors, even though he's at South Carolina. Lenora Sellers, though, I do see several pictures of him wearing rec specs under the helmet, though. So I'm torn. The fact that he decommitted from UVA makes me not want to root for him, but the fact that he's wearing rec specs, the Horace Grant of college football.
Yeah,
it's not a root for that.
It's like that movie Lucas.
I don't know that I've seen that.
Well, you're not missing much. You're not missing much. But it's like a dork that plays football. He's wearing rec specs. I don't know. But anyway, I think Charlie Sheen makes an appearance somewhere. It like every other movie in the 80s. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. The Gamecocks, they were 63rd in scoring defense last year, giving up 26.3 points per game. That was 9th best in the SEC. They were 87th in yards given up. They gave up 395.7 yards per game. That was 12th best in the SEC. 99th in passing defense. That's 246.3 yards per game, 13th best. So second to last in the SEC.
Getting toasted.
Yeah. 65th in rush defense, 249.4 yards per game, 8th best. So middle of the road, just about there in the SEC. There was actually only 14 last year. So still bad by definition, but man, I don't know. Do you think, what's it? Clayton White? Can he answer the call? Can this defense get better? We'll see, but those numbers weren't super impressive from a season ago. They do return 6 starters, though. Defensive tackle TJ Sanders, linebacker Debo Williams, Jalen Kilgore at the nickelback spot, O'Donnell Fortune at the defensive backfield. You bring back 3 of 5.
Great name.
Safety Nick Emenworry. Also DQ Smith. Great name. Love Dairy Queen. And I mean, bringing back 6 on defense. So the defense could be stronger than the offense, perhaps.
I mean, Debo Williams by far. That guy was a freak. 113 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 3 pass defense, a fumble recovery. That's your leader by far, and he's coming back, so that's nice. DQ Smith was 3rd on the team in tackles. Iman Wari was 4th on the team. TJ Sanders was 6th on the team. Did Kilgore come back? Did you say?
Kilgore's back.
Kilgore, he's 2nd on the team. So most of their, defensive production came back. So that's nice.
Well, and they have the 5-star freshman coming in on the edge, Dylan Stewart, that they're super excited about. And I guess we didn't even mention on the offensive side of the ball about our guy from DC.
Nicholas Harbor. Nick
Harbor, who I think could be. They got to find ways to get him to fucking rock. If that's how the offense is better. He just becomes Luther Burden. Times 10 or whatever the fuck you want to say.
Randy freaking Moss.
Yeah. But they're excited about, bringing in Stewart on the defensive side of the ball as well. The defense. What's that?
When we mentioned, do we talk about the transfer they lost in?
No, not yet.
Okay. No.
They added in the portal. I love this. They just said, let's take all of Pat Narduzzi's players. He hates the portal. Let's take all of his players. DeAndre Jules comes in on the defensive line from Pitt. Pitt always has stud defensive. Bengali Kamara is a stud. If you watch Pitt football, that's a great get. Buddy Mack also in the secondary. So they've done some really nice jobs. a real nice job grabbing some guys. They also brought in Gilbert Edmond, who was at Florida State 2 years ago. He was at South Carolina, so he's back to Columbia. Kyle Kennard coming in from Georgia Tech on the defensive line. And,
I mean, generally speaking, bringing in 3 players from Pitt, from a traditionally superb defensive squad, gotta be, happy with that.
100%. And I think that's, the defense might actually be pretty talented here. They did lose some talent. Xavier McLeod on the defensive line heads out to Georgia. Donovan Westmoreland going to Kennesaw State. They are in the FBS now. We will have to do an hour-long preview on the Owls of Kennesaw. Defensive lineman Felix Hinton heading out to Middle Tennessee, and Derek Mason. Defensive end DeAndre Martin to the Charlotte 49ers. Defensive lineman Terrell Dawkins to North Texas. Drew Tuzama is in the portal. Grayson Howard, a linebacker, going over to the Florida Gators. Absolutely disgusting. And then Stone Blanton, who was a stud for them a year ago, heading out to the Mississippi State Bulldogs at Jeff Levy's bunch. That one hurts. Aknan. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Shabazz to Grambling. Defensive back Isaiah Morris to North Carolina Central. Kawan Banks to South Florida. And Keenan Nelson to Ohio State in the defensive backfield. And also kicker Mitch Jeter, no relation to Derek, to Notre Dame. I still think they kind of won the portal by bringing in some guys that I know. You?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they brought in some talent. I mean, I don't know any of those dudes off the top of my head to be.
Oh, I do.
Superstars.
Yeah.
Who was? I mean, was anyone a true game changer?
To me, I love the Kamara get. He was really good.
Kamara, yeah. I mean, Edmond at defensive end and Kyle Kennard at the edge are the 2 guys that are projected right now to be top of the depth chart.
Edmond was with the program 2 years ago, so it makes sense.
Gotcha. I mean, when I'm looking at it right now, it really looks like, aside from who was the transfer they lost? That was such a good tackler, Blanton. Aside from Blanton, they have like their other top 10 tacklers back, except for Stone Blanton, which was a good player for them. But I mean, they bring back almost the entire defense, and if you're plugging in a little more talent on top of that, maybe we can count on them improving on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think so. Look, we're going to talk about the win total and the schedule here in a second, but I want to tell you that the South Carolina Gamecocks 2024 season preview episode is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is a prediction and projections app that makes data and analytics in sports betting easy for everyone. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive, you to better AI-backed betting decisions, essentially. So what are you doing, folks? Hop on over to Rhythm. They got you covered. Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by best-in-class data. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of the MLB and Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. So what are you doing? Hop on over there, download the app, create an account, use that redeeming code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. Create that account, redeeming code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we are back on the college football experience, South Carolina Gamecock style. And win total sitting at 5.5, Patty C. And if you want to know the juice on this, it is juiced towards the under. Vegas basically saying they're going to be 5-7. It is so the under's at -120, the over's at +100. So Las Vegas is telling you this is a 5-7 team. Do you agree without looking at the schedule?
I am looking at it, and I see 4 virtually guaranteed wins. So
can they get 2 then? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that they're probably going to be a 5-win team, and even that is going to be tough because almost every other game on the schedule is very, very hard. But knowing South Carolina, the quality of a program they are, they'll probably get one of those. Do I think they'll get the 6? I don't think so. So if I had to lean, I guess I would lean under, but the 4 is like a guarantee. So they would really have to lose, I feel like every other game.
Well, we're going to go game by game here, but they're plus 1,500 to win the SEC championship, and to make the 12-team playoff, they're plus 1,300, and to win the national championship, plus 40,000. Place your wagers, folks. Game 1, if you're watching
That's
YouTube,
just throwing your money away.
yeah. Well, if you're a fan, I guess you throw $100 every year. Look, folks, youtube.com/the college experience. We got the schedule and everything up. We got uniforms and everything. Week 1, the Old Dominion Monarchs come to town. ODU Ricky Ronnie did surprise last year, played much better than what everyone was projecting. Still, you would think South Carolina would be able to handle the Monarchs. They got raided in the portal a little bit. So,
although his alma mater, again, Virginia Tech, has had their struggles with Old Dominion.
That's one thing I'll say about Beamer, though. He's been beating these teams like the mid majors, like but man, it hasn't been super impressive. I'll tell you that. You look back at last year's Jacksonville State game, 38-28. Jacksonville State was in scoring position to potentially win that game and threw like a 90-yard pick six, right?
Yeah.
So they escape with the win there. You go back to the year prior, I believe, Georgia State, they beat 35-14, but even that, I believe, was like I think a block punt that happened twice. Beamer ball, classic Beamer ball. They did handle Charlotte. Charlotte was awful that year with Will Healy. His initial year, they probably should have lost in Greenville to East Carolina, let's be honest. And they beat Troy by 9. So it's like there've been close games in a lot of these mid majors.
Yeah, those are just as much the games that could get him fired if he doesn't start winning a little more convincingly.
Well, I think he goes 1-0. I think he beats Old Dominion at Williams-Brice.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And by the way, Williams-Brice, low key, one of the better stadiums. And folks, check out the Stadium Heads podcast because we talk the history of college football stadiums and why they're so great. And we talked a lot about Williams-Brice and the history of it on the Stadium Heads podcast, myself and College Football Campus Tour, aka Michael Barker. Check it out. I got him 1-0.
They got, the lights. I feel like they were one of the first teams to really do like the multicolored, like when they go with the red lights to start the game.
Yeah.
Pretty intimidating. Pretty badass.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Week 2, they head to Commonwealth Stadium in Lexington, Kentucky to take on Kentucky. This is such a pivotal game for me. This is the one I think if Beamer's going to retain his job, I think he has to win this game.
I am curious, and I'm going to pull it up real quick, how they've done against Kentucky traditionally.
He's 1-2 against them.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry. He's 2-1 against them. He's 2-1 against Kentucky. So, but this is at Kentucky, and this is going to be your freshman's first ever road game. I got to lean Kentucky, man.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't mean that I don't think South Carolina can still win this game, but
this could be the game though that makes or breaks his job, like you're saying.
Yeah, 100%. So
because every other game on the schedule that isn't a guaranteed win is a lot harder than this one. Would you agree with that? Yes.
And the very next week, they're home to Brian Kelly and his family, the LSU Tigers. Man. I feel like they can always get someone. Beamer got Tennessee when they were rolling with Heupel. Remember, like after they had beaten Bama, they had gotten them. They can get someone that we're not projecting.
Didn't they get Georgia in Georgia a few years back?
That was Muschamp. But yeah.
Okay. Even still, like Muschamp isn't the same, at best, the same quality coach as Beamer as a head coach. I think probably worse.
I'm taking LSU though, man.
Yeah, I'm taking LSU too.
Yeah, 1-2, and then.
But that would be one they might be able to get just because it's a long trip for LSU, and maybe they can. I mean, I think Nussmeier's got plenty of experience there, so he'll probably be able to have that offense going right away. But you're right, it is early, and a lot of turnover happened at LSU, so that's a good time to catch them.
Week 4, they're home to the Akron Zips and Joe Moorhead. I think they beat Akron. Akron's terrible, and so they're 2-2 going into the first bye week for me. Same for you.
Yeah.
Then here comes just a brutal 3-game stretch. Ole Miss, Bama, and Oklahoma, but they're home to Ole Miss, and I think they're susceptible because Ole Miss is going to be coming off a Kentucky game at home at Vaught-Hemingway, and then they head to back-to-back away at Columbia, South Carolina to get South Carolina, followed by at LSU. I think it's a look-ahead spot. I got South Carolina knocking off the Ole Miss Rebels.
I don't, but I could see it happening. Ole Miss, like you said, remains one of those teams that is susceptible to these kind of losses. So
I'll tell you this. They're gonna beat like Missouri. They never beat. A&M. They never beat.
Wait, right? Isn't Missouri their annual rival or their cross division rival, or was at least?
No, Missouri's in the East. What are you talking about?
A&M Missouri's in the East.
A&M, yeah.
That's what it is. I knew it was something ridiculous. A&M versus South Carolina every year.
But my point is that they're going to get either LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, or Missouri. One of those teams will get got. That's my prediction. I think it's
LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, or Missouri.
Yeah, one of the teams coming to Williams-Brice. They're going to.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. They'll get one of those.
I think it's Ole Miss, right? But then the week after Ole Miss, so I got them 3-2 now. The week after Ole Miss, they're at Bama, loss.
Yeah,
3-3. Followed by at Oklahoma. Shane Beamer was previously at Oklahoma before South Carolina, loss. So now 3-4. They get a bye week. They're home to Mike Elko and Texas A&M. This could be the one, but like I said, I already gave it to Ole Miss, so give me A&M here. Who do you got them winning this?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. If I'm honestly saying LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, and Missouri all at home, I would have them individually losing each of those 4 games, but I do think they'll win one of them. So if I just have to pick one, it might be that Ole Miss one because they're coming off the bye, but they're also coming off a bye for the A&M game. So let me just give them the A&M game.
Okay, I got A&M winning that, but we're at the same record right now. We have basically 3-5, is it? Yeah, 3-5. They're at Vanderbilt. Jerry Kill, Diego Pissing Pavia coming into the Commodores. Dangerous game for me.
Dangerous indeed.
And you know why this is dangerous is because Shane Beamer could be fired by now.
Well, I think you stop, at that point worrying about whether they're going to hit the over. I think the season's done if he's fired, mid-season. Count on the under at that point. But
he hasn't lost to Vanderbilt, but I do think this Vanderbilt team will be better than the past 2 years. But I'll still give me South Carolina to pick up a 4.
How long has Clark Lee been there at Vanderbilt now?
I think this is year 4.
So maybe he finally becomes what they hope he becomes, and through culture and through his love for Vanderbilt, which no coach has ever had, starts to turn the corner, change things a little bit there. This could be the kind of game that makes Vanderbilt look like they're turning the corner. I don't think it's going to happen. I think South Carolina is considerably better.
I don't know about considerably better, but I'll take Carolina, but I think it's like a 3-point game. Kind of high on Vandy this year. I think they're going to be more competitive. Maybe not win wise, but I think 3-4 wins for Vanderbilt, and they're going to be a little chippier than most years.
I hope so. I want to see the Commodores, competitive at least.
And then they're home to the Missouri Tigers late in the year. They could play spoiler here. This is why but Missouri owns them, so it's like. I thought originally that it wouldn't be Ole Miss that I would give them. I was like, oh, I could see them Williams-Brice rocking and them ruining Missouri's, auto bid to the playoffs potentially. But since I already gave it to Ole Miss, I think Missouri beats them here. You?
Sure. I mean, Missouri was a far better team last year. What do you think, Drink or Beamer as far as a superior coach?
Drink's never lost to him, so I'll take Drink. Yeah.
Proof is in the pudding there.
Then home to the Wofford Terriers with Sean Watson. They're horrible. Check out the FCS college football experience, though. We cover that. Wofford's terrible in the FCS, so that's a win. That's win 5. And then they're at Clemson. They're going 5-7.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I think that's us being generous with the Ole Miss.
It's 5.5 is the number?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that that's being generous. Beamer Magic is a real thing. I've seen it with my own eyes on several occasions. I think it would be uncharacteristic of him to not win at least one of those games.
But let me just play devil's advocate. This is a harder schedule than that old SEC East bullshit. You know what I mean? Like they got Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU,
A&M.
Oklahoma, and A&M from the other side, essentially.
Yeah. That's a ball buster of a schedule. And Kentucky's not a cakewalk, man. But
who are the teams you want on the schedule? It's Vanderbilt, it's Arkansas, it's Mississippi State, and they got just Vanderbilt, right?
Arkansas or Akron?
No, you want Arkansas schedule. It's not there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who would you want? Yeah, I guess Vanderbilt,
Mississippi
Arkansas
State,
at this
Arkansas.
point. Mississippi State. Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
And to be honest, I think you kind of want Florida this year, but they don't get them.
A little bit. I mean, Kentucky, I guess, would be kind of close to that range too. But you have to get at least one of those. I think they got most of the hardest teams. I mean, who they missed? Georgia, Texas. That's kind of it.
Yeah. Maybe Auburn. Yeah. I'm on the under. I think Vegas I think I would probably have it as a flat 5 if I was Vegas, but I don't know. I know they like to do the half game, but I don't know. I mean, what's best case scenario? 7? Can you see 7 wins there? They beat Kentucky, ODU. That's 2. Akron 3. They knock off Ole Miss 4, Vandy 5, Wofford 6, and maybe they get Missouri 7.
Maybe Clemson, maybe Missouri. Yeah, I think 7's probably the ceiling for this team.
Let me ask you this: we both have them 5 and 7.
Yeah.
Is Shane Beamer their coach next year when we're doing this?
If they go 5 and 7?
Yeah.
No, I think they'll let them go.
I think so too. And that's when the Lincoln Riley, Garrett Riley talk starts.
Bowl or bust? Yeah, I guess Lincoln Riley, if his seat is getting warm and they get over
and his
him.
brother's the OC of Clemson.
Yeah, get the double
or
whammy.
the Jamie Chadwell talk. We could say Jamie Chadwell.
Jamie Chadwell. Yeah.
But if he goes 6 and 6, you think he's okay?
I think it would be very helpful for him to win the bowl game if they go 6 and 6.
Yeah.
But I guess the decision is typically made before that point. So if they're 6 and 6 at the end of the regular season, I think a lot of that depends on how they look. If they're very competitive, I mean, it's a tough schedule. So if they're competitive against Alabama and LSU and Oklahoma and A&M, especially I think if they can beat Clemson, that's a big part of it too. If they lose to Clemson, that might be it on a 6 and 6 season. If they go 6 and 6 and beat Clemson, then they might keep them.
Clemson won 9 last year. Was it 9?
That sounds about right.
Because I was going to say, if that's the case, then they play 9-win teams. Clemson, 9-win or more teams. Clemson, Missouri, Oklahoma, Bama, Ole Miss, LSU.
Clemson won 9, but the 9th came in the bowl game, so they're 8 and 4 in the.
Gotcha. I don't know. It's a tough schedule, man. I think the under's the play. I lean under. I feel decent about it because I just don't know if the wins are there. I think the schedule's harder this year than most years in the SEC East. So,
yeah, Beamer's going to need to come up with that magic. But that said, if scheduling getting harder aside, he keeps at his normal pace. He averages about 7 wins, just under 7 wins a year through his first 3 years. What we say, 20 wins through his first 3 years. So if he gets to 6 or 7 wins, I think he probably does keep his job. 7 and 5.
Yeah. South Carolina should be in the ACC. They should leave and go to the ACC because they'd make the playoffs every year.
Well, I think they were a charter member of the ACC.
I remember they were at one point,
yeah.
but to me, like, how many times are they ever going to be on the winning side of this? To me, like, this is why them voting yes to expansion, even like voting yes to like, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. Like, this is now going to be so hard when you put them in the pecking order. Where do you put South Carolina if you had to rank the programs of all 16 teams? At 16, you would clearly have Vanderbilt, but who would be 15? Would it be Mississippi State? Would it be South Carolina? Would it be Arkansas?
They're right in that mix, So, yeah, they're in that 13, 14, 15 range. I guess Kentucky traditionally, but Kentucky's been better, but as a program, I would still put South Carolina in the same range, maybe even a little ahead of Kentucky, if you're taking into account the last 15 years. But what have you done for me lately? Kentucky's been the better team. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe their strategy pays off though with getting guys like Nicholas Harbor and then developing them. If you can just go swing for the fences, and then we'll see what kind of developer Shane Beamer is, because I don't think we have a long enough time. I mean, he's kind of a transfer portal guy. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
But he's like Harbor represents the opportunity to show your development chops, because he's got super high end potential, but he came in so raw that like no one even knew what position he was going to play. But if he turns into a stud and a difference maker, then Beamer should probably get some appreciation for that.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: if you're a Gamecock fan, are you happy with them in the SEC, or would you rather it be in the ACC or Big 12 or something?
I don't think you leave the ACC if you're in the SEC if you're in the SEC at this point. I think it's too stable. I think there's too much money.
See, but I don't know. Like, to me, it's like the quote, take the check, take the losses. But don't you have an awesome fan base? South Carolina fans are awesome.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to be able to actually make? I mean, I guess if they keep expanding the playoffs, then they'll. But at 12. I just don't know.
Well, there's so much. It's so tumultuous right now in the college ranks that I think you want to be in the in crowd, and not get left out when I guess the music stops or whatever. Yeah. But looking at Clemson's success, traditionally, I mean, does Clemson have any more resources than South Carolina does, or access to talent, or a better fan base? I don't think so. I think they've just been stuck in the SEC, and Clemson has benefited from being in the ACC, and the effect of that over time is that people look at Clemson as a winner and they get better players, So yeah, I think you're right. Maybe they are selling themselves short by staying in the SEC, but right now I'm not fucking leaving the SEC.
Of course. I'm just saying, like, from a fan, like you'd be stupid to leave the SEC right now because of the amount of money. But at the same time, like, at what point does your fan base just say, "Damn, man, could we just win?"
It's going to happen eventually. Some team is going to say, fuck this. I'm sick of just being in the bottom or the middle bottom of one of these big conferences, and I want to win big time, and we can if we jump ship. And they'll take the L from a monetary standpoint, but their program will benefit greatly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Clemson's trying to get in the SEC right now, so they're in the more dire spot, yet the fact that they've won national championships recently. But
that would be so funny if they switched and then South Carolina became dominant, started winning national championships and shit.
That would be. Anyway, it's got to be fun to watch. I hope Shane Beamer keeps his job. Bud Foster's friend of the program, great guy, and his dad, Frank Beamer, coaching legend. We're going to be rooting for the Cocks, but look, I think 5-7 is going to be the reality. 5-7 is what I got marked at. Vegas has it marked at it too. So I think it's spot on. I think Patty C's with me on 5-7.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be fun to see. But folks, give Patty C a follow on Twitter at PattyC831. We are the College Football Experience. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. The College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Check out all of our other podcasts, whether it's the week-by-week previews, whether it's the off-season hires, whether it's the team-by-team previews we're doing, whether it's the FCS College Football Experience, whether it's the Stadium Heads podcast. Go check them all out. And, we're excited to bring you more content as this season, I think, is going to be the best college football season we've seen in my lifetime. So
2007 at least.
Yeah, but even 2007, like, you didn't even have like a fucking, like, you didn't.
Yeah, the grand finale. It was interesting during the season, but it ended up being a bit of a dud.
All right, folks. Until next time, make sure you check out all that stuff. Get the SGPN app. It's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. And look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they go 7-5. All right, I'm hoping I'm wrong here. This is the College Football Experience, South Carolina Gamecock style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot.